Welcome to today's deep dive. We have a truly mesmerizing stack of sources on the table today.
We really do.
Yeah, we're centering around Rachel Dillmerer's just breathtaking book, The Understory, a book of roots and reckoning. And I gotta say, I've gone on hundreds of walks in the woods in my life. And after going through this material, I feel like I feel like I've been walking with my eyes closed the entire time.
It does that to you.
It really does.
Yeah.
This isn't just your standard biology lesson. It completely shatters where you might think nature begins and where you end.
Right.
So our mission for this deep dive is to fundamentally shift how you view the boundary between yourself and the natural world, while we explore the complex grief and the incredibly hidden hope of environmental change.
It really is a paradigm shift. What we are doing today is unpacking the hidden architectures of life. We are looking at the intricate, often invisible systems that sustain the world as you know it, and we're asking critical questions about what happens when those systems are pushed to the brink.
Exactly.
We're going to break down the sheer scale of what is happening right beneath your feet so you can hopefully see your own backyard through an entirely new lens.
And to really get to that new lens, we have to start by completely dismantling the illusion of the individual.
Yes, the permeable self.
Right. There is this incredible scene set in a bog in November. The author is visiting the scattered ashes of a biologist she knew named Miriam.
Mm-hmm.
And she looks at the sphagnum moss there, not just as a plant, but as this ruthless, brilliant engineer. This moss can hold up to, 20 times its dry weight in water.
Which is staggering.
It is. And it literally creates its own environment by acidifying the water around it until only certain organisms can survive. And here's where it gets a little spooky, but also beautiful. The moss is actively incorporating Miriam's ashes into its own body.
Yeah, her calcium is being bound right into the plant's cell wall.
And her nitrogen is fueling its green growth.
It's the ultimate form of recycling, really. And it brings up a philosophical and chemical reality that is just hard to ignore once you see it. The moss is not a passive green carpet.
Right, it's doing things.
It is highly reactive. When a human hand is pressed to that cold, spongy moss, it registers the heat. It absorbs the sweat. It even reacts to the elevated cortisol from the sorrow of the person touching it. It's reading the environment in real time.
Wait, so the moss is literally reading her sweat?
Exactly. It's a direct chemical exchange.
Oh.
And at the exact same time, Miriam's atoms are evaporating from the bog into the air and being breathed straight into the lungs of anyone standing there.
Wow.
If you think about the air in your room right now, listening to this, you are breathing in the recycled atoms of the past. It proves, on a molecular level, that the boundary of the human skin is an absolute illusion. You do not end where your skin ends.
You're constantly inhaling and exhaling the world.
Precisely.
Okay, let's unpack this cause. If the boundary of the individual is an illusion above ground, what is happening below ground is even wilder.
Much wilder.
If you dig into the forest floor, you hit the mycorrhizal network. We are talking about fungal threads, hyphae, that are thinner than a single cell but strong enough to push right through solid stone.
Yeah, the scale is hard to wrap your head around.
In a single cubic inch of forest soil, there can be up to 8 miles of these fungal threads. 8 miles, connecting root to root, tree to tree. Now, I always hear people talk about this underground internet or these benevolent mother trees nurturing each other in a spirit of woodland cooperation.
The utopian view.
Right. Is it really that utopian down there?
Not exactly. There's a mycologist named Satya who has spent her life studying this, and she points out that we really love to romanticize the forest.
I do.
We project our own human ideals of community onto it, but the reality is that this network is incredibly ruthless and competitive. Yes, it can funnel nutrients to a struggling seedling, but that exact same network can transmit disease or allow a fungus to become entirely parasitic and drain a host tree dry.
So it's less like a nurturing mother and more like a completely neutral, slightly terrifying highway system.
That's a perfect way to look at it. And what's truly fascinating about this underground highway is its core design principle. The fungal network is optimized for redundancy, not efficiency.
Redundancy.
Right. In our human world, we build for efficiency, the shortest path between 2 points. But the forest builds for redundancy. That means if one connection is cut or a tree falls and tears up the soil, the network simply routes around the damage.
It doesn't collapse.
No, it doesn't. It is built to endure whatever the world throws at it.
That idea of endurance brings up a totally different way to think about time. There's this image in the text of a 12,000-year-old glacial erratic boulder sitting in a meadow,
A massive piece of stone.
just dropped there when the ice retreated from the last ice age. And growing on this massive piece of quartz-veined granite is a patch of crustose lichen. This lichen expands at barely a millimeter a year.
It's almost imperceptible?
A single patch the size of a dinner plate has been sitting on that rock for 400 years. Talk about playing the long game. I mean, we get impatient when a web page takes 3 seconds to load, and this lichen has been working on a dinner plate-sized patch since the 1600s.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it really forces us to reevaluate our own existence. There is a profound contrast between human time and what we can call stone time.
Stone time. I like that.
Humans are essentially a brief, hot process. We burn through time like a flame. We are fast. We require constant change, constant fuel. The stone and the lichen growing on it represents a cool, extended state.
It doesn't rush.
It doesn't rush at all. It simply endures. And there is a jarring reality when these two timelines collide. Human industry has burned through 200 million years of moss time in just 200 years of industrial activity.
Moss time being ancient carbon compressed into coal and oil.
Yes, 200 million years of it.
Wow. 200 million years of stored energy gone in 2 centuries. We really are just a fast, hot process burning through deep time.
We are. And we are burning through systems that took millennia to build, oft without even realizing they are there. Take the American prairie, for example.
Okay.
We usually just see the grass waving in the wind. But an ethnobotanist mapping those root systems found that they plunge 15 to 20 feet deep into the earth to tap ancient water tables.
There's this striking quote about those prairie plants. The above ground is advertisement. The below ground is the business.
And that underground business relies on an unfathomable workforce of invisible laborers. A single gram of healthy soil holds more living organisms than there are humans on planet Earth.
Just in 1 gram.
1 gram. You have billions of bacteria, miles of fungi, microscopic predators, and then you have the larger laborers like earthworms. Earthworms literally gave the Earth its structure.
How so?
Well, over 10,000 years, they processed mineral rock and decaying matter into the stable, porous topsoil that allowed human agriculture to even exist. But here is the tragic math. The American Midwest is currently losing 4 tons of topsoil per acre per year.
4 tons per acre. Every single year.
Yes. We are losing the business end of the ecosystem far faster than those invisible laborers could ever rebuild it.
Losing 4 tons of topsoil an acre. That's not just a statistic. That's the literal foundation of our world washing away. It honestly gives me this heavy, disorienting pit in my stomach just thinking about it.
That pit in your stomach actually has a name, and it's one of the most profound concepts we're exploring in this deep dive.
Right, the grief notebook chapters.
Yeah.
The philosopher Glenn Albrecht coined this term, solastalgia.
Solastalgia.
It is this deep, disorienting grief you feel for a place that is leaving you while you are still living in it. Think about a field you played in as a kid that is now a paved parking lot, or a local river that you can't swim in anymore.
It's the feeling of homesickness when you haven't even moved.
Exactly. You are just watching the environment you know slowly disappear around you.
It is such a necessary word because it validates that specific modern grief. And we are feeling it because we are witnessing cascading failures in our ecosystems.
It's almost never just one isolated event.
No, it's a chain reaction. Take the eastern hemlock trees. They're currently being decimated by a tiny invasive insect called the woolly adelgid.
So the trees die. But it doesn't stop there, does it?
Not at all. Hemlocks provide dense, year-round shade over streams and rivers. When those trees die and their needles fall off, the direct sunlight hits the river water.
And it warms up.
It warms up. And basic chemistry dictates that warmer water loses its ability to hold oxygen. Because of that warming and oxygen loss, the brook trout, which evolved to require glacial melt temperatures to breathe, suffocate and vanish.
So one microscopic insect arrives, and an entire aquatic ecosystem miles downstream completely collapses.
It's a terrifying domino effect.
And we see similar chain reactions with wildfires. For a century, humans suppressed natural periodic fires. We thought we were protecting the forests, but now, fueled by much longer droughts, when the fires do escape, they burn with an intensity that the forest never evolved to handle.
They burn incredibly hot.
They burn so hot they literally sterilize the soil, turning it into this powdery white residue.
Yes, the soil actually becomes hydrophobic. It repels water.
Wait, so when the soil literally repels water, what happens to the forest? How does it grow back?
It doesn't.
It just dies.
It dies. It goes through something called type conversion. Think of it like a neighborhood being entirely rezoned by the city. What used to be a lush, ancient forest is permanently transformed into a dry shrubland.
Wow.
It can't go back. The underlying infrastructure, the soil, has been fundamentally changed.
That makes the bestiary of loss mentioned in our sources even more heartbreaking. There is a documentation of specific vanished creatures, which really gives shape to that feeling of soul nostalgia.
It really does put a face to the grief.
You have the passenger pigeon, which used to darken the sky by the billions, and it ended with a single bird named Martha, dying in a cage in 1914.
Such a profound loss.
There's the Tasmanian thylacine, hunted to extinction for bounties. The Beiji River dolphin, which simply vanished from the Yangtze River because of boat traffic and pollution.
And it is crucial to understand that this isn't just historical loss from a century ago. We are living through this right now. The staggering modern statistic is that North America alone has lost 3 billion birds since 1970.
3 billion.
We are actively living through a massive thinning of the dawn chorus.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Because amidst all this heavy cascading loss, there is a hard pivot in the book to the fascinating, almost alien resilience and intelligence of the non-human world.
The collective wisdom.
Yes. Have you ever watched a parliament of crows gathering at dusk? You see hundreds of them flying in from all directions to roost together in a single tree, and they're literally pooling their information.
They're basically holding a town hall.
They are. They are sharing data on where a farmer left spilled grain, where the local hawks are hunting, which human neighborhoods are safe. They possess an intelligence that is deeply collective rather than individual.
It's brilliant, and it perfectly contrasts our human obsession with individual longevity. Look at the hive mind of the honeybee. In a beehive, the value system is completely inverted from ours.
How so?
Well, we protect our elderly and send our young out into the world. In a hive, the youngest bees stay safe inside. They tend to larvae, they regulate the temperature, they build the honeycomb. It is the oldest bees who undertake the dangerous foraging missions outside the hive.
Because they've lived their lives already.
Precisely. The oldest are sent out into the hazards of rain, wind, and predators because they are deemed expendable for the survival of the whole. The individual bee's lifespan doesn't matter. The continuity of the entire colony is everything.
The drive to continue is just fiercely strong. You see this desperate resilience in animals you wouldn't even expect. Take the little brown bat.
Right. You mentioned earlier they were decimated by white nose syndrome.
Yes. For anyone who doesn't know, white nose syndrome is this awful fungal infection that basically irritates the bats while they're trying to hibernate. It wakes them up in the dead of winter, they burn through all their stored fat, and they starve to death.
It wiped out millions of them.
Millions. Yeah. But, incredibly, some colonies are surviving. They're adapting. They're flying out into the night to echolocate and hunt, screaming into the darkness to build a map of the world in sound, refusing to just fade away. Or look at the spring peeper frog.
That is one of the most extreme survival mechanisms on the planet.
It really is. These tiny frogs literally freeze solid in the winter. They become frog-shaped ice cubes.
Solid ice.
Their hearts completely stop beating. Ice crystals form in the spaces between their cells. They are, by all medical definitions, dead. And then the spring thaw comes, the ice melts, their hearts jumpstart, and they wake up.
And what do?
They immediately spend every single ounce of their energy on a deafening, desperate mating chorus. They use themselves up entirely just for the chance of continuation.
That relentless drive for continuation is perfectly illustrated in what we can call the mathematics of return.
The mathematics of return.
Yes. There is an incredible story of a dam removal on a northern river. For a century, the river was blocked. The ecosystem above the dam was starving. But the moment the dam was removed, the salmon returned to the river of their ancestors to spawn and die.
100 years later, they just knew how to find their way back.
They did. And the ecological miracle here is what happens next. The salmon swim upstream, they spawn, and then they die. Their decaying bodies distribute rich, deep ocean nutrients straight into the inland ecosystem.
Bringing the ocean to the forest.
Exactly. The bodies of these fare account for a quarter of the nitrogen in the streamside trees. 25% of the forest fuel comes from the ocean, carried in by the salmon.
That is unbelievable.
The eagles, the bears, the insects, the forests themselves all suddenly ramp up their growth. It is powerful, tangible proof that the arrow of destruction can sometimes point toward repair. When we remove the barriers, the system knows exactly how to heal itself.
So what does this all mean for you listening to this deep dive right now? The next time you walk outside, I want you to remember what's beneath your feet.
The unseen business.
Yes, you are stepping on a vast 8-mile-per-inch underground internet of fungi that is routing resources and data in real time. When you turn on your tap in the kitchen, you might be drinking from a 10,000-year-old aquifer that remembers the cold of the last ice age.
It's all connected.
Every single breath you take is pulling in the recycled atoms of the past, the evaporated water of ancient bogs and rushing rivers. The boundary between you and the world simply does not exist. You are a permeable, temporary, incredibly beautiful expression of this exact same network.
And I want to leave you with one final, lingering idea regarding the persistence of seeds. There is a documented case of a tiny pin cherry seed that lay completely dormant in the forest soil for 70 years.
70 years.
70 years in the total dirt, buried under the dirt, doing absolutely nothing but waiting. It wasn't until a violent microburst storm tore through the area and ripped down the old-growth forest canopy that the sunlight finally hit the forest floor.
And the light reached the seed.
That sudden, violent exposure to light triggered that 70-year-old seed to wake up and sprout. It forces us to ponder this. We often view massive disruptions or storms in our environment solely as destruction. We see the fallen trees and the chaos. But what if disturbance is the exact mechanism required to wake up dormant systems of repair? What seeds of renewal are waiting in the dark right now, in our forests and in our own lives, just waiting for a structural collapse to finally give them the light they need to grow?